Here, the consent from the user is indirect because the user is actually interacting with the first business. Hi, and welcome to Digital Brunch. Today we are going to talk about cookies, of course, internet cookies, because this year started with the announcement that this year we are going to be starting with the cookieless era. And I heard a lot of questions about this, and yeah, it got postponed. I don't know if you heard, but on the 23rd of April, Google announced that actually the cookieless era is going to be postponed, so it was all the fuss for nothing. But I got a lot of cookies about what it actually means for advertising and what we should expect about it. First of all, we are going to discuss about the types of cookies that you get. There are actually 4 types of cookies that you can collect from a user. We have zero-party cookies, first-party cookies, second-party cookies, and third-party cookies. What is the difference between them? So first of all, zero-party cookies. Zero-party cookies are actually the data that the user is giving willingly to the business. That is to say, through surveys, through questions, or the personal data that they fill in a form. Let's say, for example, that a user enters your website or your mobile app and they fill in a form where they give you information about themselves, like, for example, their name, contact details, and also maybe the types of content that they like, also their birthday, let's say. That is data that you can then use, for example, to send them an email for their birthday or to serve them segmented newsletters on a certain topic, but through this data that is zero-party, so data that a user has consented to give you. That is to say that the consent was explicit. So this is the zero-party data. This is the best type of data that you could get. This is the data that will not be affected by anything if the user has given hers explicit consent to give you this data. First-party cookies refer to the data that is collected with consent, but with implicit consent, not the explicit consent. That is actually what happens when a user enters a website. They accept to give you the cookies, they click on accept cookies, and then your website collects data about them. That could be, for example, their browsing behavior, their purchasing behavior, the products that they add to a wish list, what pages they visited on the website, and so on. And the same thing, I could say, refers to a mobile app, for example. That is data that is first party, it's collected with consent, and it's an implicit consent there. This is also not the data that will be affected by the cookieless era. Second party data is data that is collected through first-party cookies, but then it is being used by another business. That is usually what happens with the user's consent when you agree to share your data both with the business you're interacting with, but also with the partners of that business. So that is to say that your data is collected as zero-party or first-party cookie, so either you fill in a form or it's simply browsing behavior, purchase behavior, or so on, but then it is shared from that business you are interacting with another partner of theirs. So it is collected with consent, and it's not going to be affected by the cookieless era, the cookie Armageddon, and so on. Third-party cookie, and this is where the plot thickens, so to say. This is what all the fuss is actually about. Third-party cookies actually refer to the data that is collected by a business in an aggregated form, together with other cohorts of users. A business remembers your browsing behavior, the content that you are interacting with, and they actually add you to a cohort in an aggregated form, and they are later on using that they are sharing actually those targeting methods and those cohorts with another third-party business. Here, the consent from the user is indirect because the user is actually interacting with the first business, the first web property, and his or her data is aggregated together with data from other users and is being used in advertising. I think a good example here would be, for example, when you're being targeted in social media based on your interests from other websites you've been interacting with. And this is what all the plot right now with the cookieless era is. The problem here is that the user has not given his consent to be targeted on social media, for example, like in our example here, with the data from his browsing behavior on other websites. So it's third-party cookies. What Google has said this year was that they were going to phase out third-party cookies in Google Chrome. And that's when everyone in advertising got very panicked, because advertising digitally uses a lot of third-party cookies for better targeting. What will happen, we don't really know, but there are going to be other solutions apparently, because on the 3rd of April, Google announced that they will postpone this phasing out of the third-party cookies in Google Chrome. And later on the 22nd of July, they announced that they may have found another solution to use this data in a more regulations approved way, and to still be able to use third-party cookies but in an anonymous way. We are going to see what is going to happen, but I would take away from this the fact that for a better targeting in our campaigns, and also in order to prevent any unwanted conclusions from this cookieless era plot, I would say that it's very important to have zero-party and first-party cookies from your users. How do you actually get to have that? So when we refer to zero-party cookies, I think it's very important to get the users on your website involved in micro conversions, like for example filling out a form, or for example giving them other reasons, like maybe pieces of content that are only valid when you enter your data, or give them other reasons to share their information with you. In order to collect first-party cookies without the user buying, for example, you need not only to track your user, and of course tracking is very important, but it's also very important to get them to navigate on your website. Especially in transactional businesses like e-commerce, we focus a lot on the end result, like purchasing, maybe adding product to the wish list. But actually the browsing history is also very important. You want the user to be on your website, you want them subscribed to your newsletter, and you want to interact as much as possible with them. For more tips on cookies and digital advertising, don't forget to hit subscribe.